Thank you for joining. So I will start with a short introduction. As you know, we've launched this webinar to create a Holaspirit community. I'll just put it down here. So yes, we've launched this webinar to create a Holaspirit community where you can use it to help network and connect with a fellow self-organized company, and also discover new practices around the world. So the topic today is to explore the challenge of becoming self-organized company at scale. So I am very pleased to welcome Boris Dyakno, who is the co-founder of Tochka.com. It's the first digital bank for entrepreneurs in Russia. So very happy to have you today. Boris is well known in the business community and is fascinated about the way organization can change people's lives and experience. So his organization has more than 1,000 users on Holaspirit, among more than 100 circles. So Boris, I will let you introduce yourself afterwards. We also have the pleasure to have Sergey Bekhterev, who lives in Russia. He is a professional consultant working for organizational development for his client and working along with Tochka.com since several years. So they will tell us a bit more about Tochka experience, how they are using Holacracy as the base structure of their organization, but also how Tochka has managed to become the biggest Russian company under Holacracy rules with more than 2,000 employees. So that will be a great sharing of experience. Really looking forward to it. And thank you both for being here today. I'm also very happy. I'm very happy to have Dennis Wittrock, who is a Holakratie certified coach who mainly works as an international coach for Hypoport. Thank you for being here today, Dennis. So Hypoport is a German network of technology companies for the credit, real estate and insurance industry. There are approximately 2,000 employees, and half of the subsidiaries are working in Holacracy. So also very interested to have your sharing of experience, Denise. So together, I think we have a room filled with experience. So there are going to be a lot of insights coming up from this session. So thank you all for connecting today. I will perhaps let the floor to Philip, if you want to say a few words before we start the session.
Yes, thank you, Millie. Hi, everybody. I'm really happy to welcome you on this new user club. Ghosting is a real journey, and this journey is really challenging when it comes to companies with hundreds and more than 1,000 users, 1,000 employees, sorry. As a software company, we are convinced that the digital platform is key to support these new ways of working, new organizational design, and agile governance. And on hundreds of companies today from all activities, sectors, and more than 40 countries today share this vision. Tochka and Hypoport Group are one of them. We're also convinced, of course, that human is key to succeed in this project. So I'm really, really excited to have Boris, Natalia, Sergey, and also Dennis to share their journey towards self-management and leadership at scale. Thank you very much for joining this session, and I'm really looking forward to learning and listening to you.
Thank you, Philippe. Then Boris will start the session, and if you have questions coming along, write them in the chat, and then we will have about 30 minutes to get back to them afterwards. So right. Boris, I'll let you start.
All right. Well, hello everybody. It's a great honor to start the session. Well, before speaking about scaling Holacracy, I think it's worth saying where the roots are. We've started, I guess, more than 5 years ago, and we started with our what is conventionally called contact center, but we call it online office. And we tried the implementation on a really small scale, and it actually didn't work well because of the boundaries with other parts of the organization. And but we actually used it to drive and to change the culture. And then, I guess around 4 years ago or something like that, we made this really serious decision that took a lot of discussion. Okay, let's try to scale it all across the company, and that was a serious step with constitutional signing and blah blah blah. And that was really the worst time to do that. If I would have been given a task to pick the worst time for implementation, that was it, because at this very time, several months after the decision, our parent company was in a crisis, and we had to move the operations to another bank, introducing a multi-banking platform, and that involved moving all the employees to another entity and restructuring the processes. And in a normal situation, that would require a lot of direct command, you know. And then secondly, our business was growing like crazy, and we doubled both in the new clients, in the clients we currently serve. We doubled in our sales, and worst of all, we almost doubled in amount of personnel that we have, or in amount of partners that we have. And that was the worst time. A lot of external changes, a lot of internal changes, business growth. But partially, I don't think we would have been able to achieve that without the Holacracy and the instruments and the Holaspirit that we use, because that was about transparency. That was about just telling people, do whatever, but get it done. And scaling the mission, scaling the tasks. I don't think we would have been able to grow like that without with proper planning, top-down command. We just like a biological organism, we let the whole thing grow, and that's kind of our background. I think what is crucial is that our goal was never to introduce a Holacracy. We never had the goal to be called at the conferences to speak about how to scale it. We never had the goal to be written about in the books, you know, about, or be an example of whatever. I had a really personal goal to get out of the operational side of things and to go on a circumnavigation, which I still haven't done. but I was able to get out of the operational side of things and be a little, much less involved now. We've given a lot of freedom to the team and to the people of Tochka. And secondly, we thought that it's such a shame by the time somebody grows as a leader in an organization, they pretty much quit utilizing their skills and they become 100% bureaucrats. just making decisions that they shouldn't be making, and they don't spend time coaching, they don't spend time building products, they just build time doing useless stuff. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if the company would not be taxed with that? Wouldn't it be great if the company would be able to utilize its strongest people to the fullest? And that's the capacity that I've seen in Holacracy implementation. But I think it was relatively hard for us to introduce the rules and to start to play by the book. But I think what was of utmost importance, and that was my point, is that I've seen a lot of, I would call it, values or principles behind the book and behind the Constitution. And for me, it has always been more important not to implement the letter, but to implement the spirit. Because we had people that were really caught up with the letter, with the rules, and my experience shows that you can take any rules, any operational system, any framework or whatever, and abuse it to your own will, and abuse it to your own ego, and to start destroying the company when you focus on yourself. I have this funny theory. Well, since the whole thing about holacracy is about the cells and the circles and comparing it to a biological organism, is that everybody might have cancer cells. And what healthy immune system does, it kills cancer cells. But if they get out of control, they can potentially destroy the body. And what cancer cells do, they pretty much live for themselves. And they start consuming the resources just for their own good, just for their own growth, without thinking about the body as a whole. In a healthy body, each cell plays to the purpose of a larger organ. And that organ never exists for itself. Every organ exists for the whole body, and this is the way it becomes healthy, and it functions. And the eyes can see and send signals that we don't get our ass in trouble, and our liver keeps whatever we swallow away from us. You know, the whole system functions. And one of the tensions that was really hard to identify, but were really a threat to a growing company, that there were cells, or there were particular partners that were ready to exist for themselves, just looking at their part of the picture. And then they could actually abuse the book, and they could abuse the rules to play this particular game. And it was a very purposeful and educational push on our side that we exist here as a whole. And if you're not working on a mission of a larger circle, then you're probably working against the body. You're working just for yourself. You start to consume resources for yourself, and it becomes a really poisonous situation. And so there were several streams. There was a stream of business as usual, because making our clients happy is, you know, what we're here for. And then there were practicalities of learning and scaling, and how you do tactical meetings, and how do you do governance. And we made this stupid mistake. We started with governance, and in some areas where we didn't have a solid operational system in place, and people would just kind of gather for meetings trying to do governance, instead of actually speaking about what their success is and where it might be. We've also had funny issues, and I really believe that Holacracy is really great in blowing up things that needs to be blown up, and in breaking things that were broken a long time ago but were camouflaged. Because when you give enough freedom and just expect results, what normally would happen in a large company with authoritarian or whatever management, problems can be covered up for a long time, or partners that are performing may be covered up for a long time. In a pretty horizontal structure where expectations are clear and results are clear, and nobody from the top comes down and tells you how to actually do things, people that don't want to do stuff, or people that don't have the capacity to do stuff, or the processes that were broken initially and not functional, or the cells that were just oriented in themselves, that becomes visible really, really quickly. So after we started a full-fledged implementation, we've had several parts of the company, and sometimes really important parts of the company, that got broken down. And they quit bringing results, and we had voices that were saying, well, Holacracy isn't working. And well, it actually didn't work there, but partially it was because there was nothing to work. And several times we had to step in and to say, okay, in this particular part of the company, we introduce direct management again, but it was funny because our purpose was not to establish a direct command forever, but to reset the system in a way that it might function again. And it was a really great success to acknowledge that, okay, here it's not working. It doesn't work operationally, it doesn't work culturally, it doesn't work in terms of the Holacracy processes. But our goal is to repair the business bit of it, but also to inspire the people again, or sometimes to change the roles a little bit, to establish a new version of leadership, and to show how a leadership in new reality might be, and then to let it go again. And it was a great success to come and to acknowledge, okay, we're broken here, we want to reset. It took around two months or 3 months to revive the processes, and actually these are maybe one of the healthiest parts of our company now, that went through these little surgeries. But it was also very transparent that, you know, we've spoken about that, we acknowledged the problem, and we moved on. And then step by step, the rule was given back to where it belonged, to the people, and to the leadership. We were also really inspired by the fact that we can understand, for example, that in one circle there is a particular person that could be a great lead link, but just for that period, for that task, and then for a new season we might need another lead link, and that is spoken about with a lot of transparency and a lot of honesty, and the great thing that people are less and less associating their worth with their roles, but associating their worth with themselves, on what they can deliver, and it's more about the role and less about the position. And I think that it's really beautiful, and it's really wonderful. And I know I've been, you know, speaking about bits and pieces here about how we've broken down, about what mistakes we did, that we've chosen the worst part. But my inspiration for everybody is that you can scale with Holacracy. You would make your own mistakes, even with us that have chosen the worst timing to do that. It's still a success, but it's not about the letters in the constitution or in the book. It's more about the spirit, and the way I personally view it, it's our way to introduce values in a really practical way, instead of speaking with mottos, instead of saying, oh, do this or don't do that. We actually show that we value when people take responsibility, we value when people make decisions, and that's kind of how it goes. Yeah, I really like that. Maybe run into the questions, let nothing get in the way of the work, not even holacracy. Exactly, because it's not the Sabbath for the man, it's the man for the Sabbath. And that's the general rule. About the onboarding process with new employees, well, it's complicated, but we pretty much have to introduce the rules. And but what is most important, people have to see that we actually live it. We're a distributed company. Our 2,000 employees are scattered along seven time zones, or maybe even 8. I think 8 time zones. I even don't know in how many cities and towns where we have people working with us. So it's partially digital. It's obviously a little bit different in our head office, but onboarding is pretty much like on the ship. You welcome a person, you tell them the rules of the boat, where the life raft is, and then they watch how everybody does stuff, and they do stuff. You mentioned hard times during your growth phase. What's the reason you kept on working with Holacracy and didn't switch back to traditional system? Well, it's kind of, I believed in the potential, and I believed in the people in it, and it was very tension driven when we discussed it. Okay, there is this tension, and some people would say, well, it's because of the Holacracy. But then if we look deeper, it wasn't because of the Holacracy. The things that are broken would have been broken anyway. And well, it was because of the Holacracy that they broken down fast, but it was either a weak leadership or misunderstanding of the mission, or not enough talent in a particular circle that would just understand on how to carry the work, or not enough focus on the client. But it was never a Holacracy. How did you manage to legitimize the switch of power during the short phases of top-down leadership? We had an official decision. The same people that adopted the constitution said, okay, we see the leadership of the company, said, okay, we see the problem, and we make a decision, and we announced for how long the exception would play. We said, okay, it's gonna last for 2 months, and that's how it's gonna be done. And then there was an official, I think we had to prolong it for 2 or 3 weeks, but then it was an official announcement, okay, now plays back by the constitution. How did you assign the lead link roles at the beginning? Has the role taken over by former line manager, or have you brought the fresh blood in these roles right from the beginning? We would have not, I think, survived bringing the fresh blood. We pretty much, in the beginning, we created as horizontal, we were as horizontal as possible. All the line managers kept the roles. And I guess the first painful experiences were when we started to replace the lead links, acknowledging that some things are not working and the lead links are not performing, but we kept them in the company and kept the respect. And people started to learn that, you know, the role is one thing and the position is another, and the person is totally different. And first time it was painful, then it's becoming easy. It still can be painful sometimes. I don't think we would have survived a lot of fresh blood in the beginning. Rules are easy to implement, but to create the spirit is a lot harder. What have you done to help people develop the right spirit? Well, I have several theories about the cultural stuff. The first one is you have corporate culture whether you like it or not. And the only thing you can do is to shape it. My second belief is that corporate culture is never shaped with words, because like people are like teenagers in school. Whatever you tell them, they test and they believe what you do, and not what you say. For example, if the teacher comes to a class and says, okay, smoking is really bad for you, but then if kids find him smoking, what they're gonna figure out? First of all, the guy is a hypocrite. Secondly, it's okay to say stuff and to do something different. And thirdly, well, or fourth or whatever, smoking is cool. So it's always the behavior, the acts that shape the culture, never the words. We had several instances, for example, where we had adopted the rules or the policies and they were violated. And it's not adoption of the policies during the government meeting that shaped the culture, just did nothing. It's the violation of the policies that shape the culture and send a signal, okay, the policies are somewhere there, but we can play different. But what really shaped the culture is that we acknowledge that the rules were broken, that the governance that we took upon ourselves was broken, that it was not right, and it was amended, it was made whole again. And that sent a really powerful signal that we take our rules seriously. Sometimes by omission or by bad will or whatever, they can be broken, but we value rules above the respect of people. We value rules above the respect of who did that. If we believe it's true, we're gonna bring them back and we're gonna restore it. And I think that's one of the most like powerful things that happened at the instance.
Thank you very much, Boris. That's a lot of insight, and it's precious. Maybe we can get back to the question afterwards.
Yes. Or Daria can answer some of them, or Sergey, who observed it a bit from the distance, can. Yeah, I would just stay muted and jump on another call, right?
Okay, then we will get back to the question afterwards. Okay. Thank you very much, Boris, and congrats, it was awesome. Thank you. Okay, so if you have more questions coming up, you can just write them down in the chat, and then we will have 30 minutes to get to, and Boris and Sergey will be able to answer those questions afterwards. And now we'll get to another story with Dennis. Dennis, can you share with us the journey you had at Hypoport?
Yeah, happy to. Yeah, it was first of all fantastic what the Russian guys did there, and Boris and all the team. So congrats, that's really impressive. Yeah, as for Hypoport, let me share my screen here with you guys and say a few words about our journey. So so first of all, our name is Hypoport. We're a German company, and today I want to just briefly talk with you about the following. First of all, give you a little context of the company, the team that implemented the Holakratie practice, and then how we did it, the implementation, in particular, the aspect of training, methodology, implementation accountability, and also the materials we used. So first of all, Hypoport, so we're a successful network of companies from Germany. As Millie already mentioned, we have we create technology for credit, insurance, and real estate sectors. We have also around 2,000 people, strong workforce, and those we focus on credit platform, private clients, real estate platform, and insurance platform. We have a holding, which is the Hypoport SE, which is the strategic central function, trying to generate some synergies between the companies in the network. And we're also listed in the Frankfurt Stock Exchange and the SDAX, so you can even invest if you want to. So currently 7 of the 15 subsidiary companies practice Holacracy. We have Quality Pool, Europace, Dr. Klein Ratenkredit, Smart Insurtech, Dr. Klein Privatkunden, and Vergleich.de, and of course the holding as well practices Holacracy. That is all in all means 1,164 people in roles in over 165 circles with around about 2,500 individual roles altogether across all those companies, of course, taken together. And the team that led the implementation is next up. It's the Holabi team. So the purpose of the circle is to create a healthy, enriching relationship between the learning self and the holacratic organization. And so in that purpose, there's a polarity embedded, which is the Hola part, the organizational part, and the learning self, which is the B, the human, the people side of the street. It's implicit there. And it's kind of, we're using a framework in the background by Christiane Solz-Schöller, which is called Language of Spaces, where you have on the right-hand side, in the context of the organization, you have the operational space and the governance space, and you can use Holacracy in that gray frame here to use to solve those tensions, which doesn't do anything. If you ever tried to process a personal tension in a governance meeting, you will have noticed that this doesn't do anything for your personal or interpersonal tensions. So these two spaces also need attention, and if you don't pay attention to that, they will certainly sabotage your implementation or hamper you. So these are dimensions that you should pay attention to, and we try to also do that in our circle. So we have a team of 2 certified coaches. That's my colleague Klaas there next to me, and then we focus on the organizational part, and 2 people and organization coaches, which have a focus a little more on the B side of the street. This is Björn and Stephanie. So this is the kind of the dream team at Hypoport, which accompanies all those 7 implementations. So how do we do this? How do we make the practice stick at scale? And the first question was for us, okay, how do you help over 1,000 people practice Holacracy most effectively? So how do you do that? You pull it off. So we came up with a primary strategy for scaling the practice. So as you know, in Holacracy, we formulate strategies usually by using even over statements, like one thing is even over the other. So one thing is even more important than the other, while both are being important. So it's both important to do direct coaching and to scale know-how, but if we want to focus your efforts in helping over 1,000 people practice Holacracy, you should focus on that part of scaling of know-how, even over doing stuff like shadowing or directly helping people figure out what their roles are meant to do, or something like that. So you should focus on methods and ways to scale, to help people with the know-how part and learn that, not just know what, but know how to practice the doing. And we have I want to go through 4 aspects of the implementation with you. First is training, second is methodology, then implementation accountability, and lastly, materials. First of all, so from our perspective, it takes a lot of training to establish a stable Holakratie practice. So training, and so on. We have a lot of trainings on offer internally through the holding company, offered to any of the subsidiary companies that need some education on this. So we have a Holakratie taster workshop, the one that we do internally, which is a one-day experiential taste of what Holakratie is, for especially good for onboarding purposes. It's useful to orient people. What's this practice that's being practiced here? Then we do have the internal pendant of the Holakratie practitioner trainings. We do this 3 to 5 days. So if we do this in person, or pre-corona, it was 3 days, and post-corona, we do a remote version of 5 days, where we run exercises, simulations, have people really facilitate meetings, etc. And we also offer Getting Things Done trainings, have been licensed recently, and so we're now allowed to do this internally. And also what we call leadling, rappling trainings, where we gather leadlings and onboard them into their role, and also rapplings to help them orient how does this work, the leadership aspect under the premises of self-organization. It's a bit different than traditional leadership. So how does it work, and so on. So we help them understand that. And from my perspective, the Holakratie practitioner trainings are key. So if we had to drop, or if I had to pick one of them, or could only do one, I would say, okay, do the practitioner trainings. And any one of you who has been to a Holakratie 1 practitioner training knows that that's very intensive, and there's many insights, and you learn most by doing it yourself. So that's what we're doing here too. We replicated them and modified them for our purposes. And we do this with 12 people, and monthly we have one on offer. And so that's where the magic happens, was this kind of the direct transmission of the practice, because hands-on practice is best to confer the know-how and to scale multiplicators of the practice. So once they've graduated from that practitioner training, they really are able to help the colleagues and actually also feel safe, or safe enough to, or certain enough to lead a meeting, and otherwise they would not dare to somehow. So most people are, oh, I should lead a governance meeting, I don't know. But with practitioner training, people feel confident that they can at least try it and not make a fool of themselves. So that's really important. And then they become go-to persons for other people in their circle. And the goal that we have is that at least 1 or 2 people of every circle are trained practitioners, so that we have a qualified facilitator, and ideally another person who is also qualified to spot mistakes and correct if there is anything going off the rails or something we're saying. So that's the ideal, and for many circles that's already true. So we have done 30 practitioner trainings until now. So 360 practitioners are populating our companies, and that's, I think, really the basis for the solid implementation. So in terms of methodology, we take it one step at a time. We usually start, if a company wants to express the wish to move forward, we start with the top of the organization and move downwards. We start with the former management team, and then move down the hierarchy. And why we do this is because the former leaders act as role models, as Boris said, and I can only can't agree more, is that it's important what they do, not so much what they say. So it doesn't help if they say, yeah, we like Holacracy, let's do this, but they're actually not doing themselves. Then the all the levels below that will have doubts and not really put in the investment needed to learn the practice. So if the former management team then shows that they actually take the charge here and demonstrate that they do it, then other people will follow. So get people trained, again, very important. 1 or 2 people having graduated the practitioner training. And we actually do it by the book, in the sense that we tried, there were experiments using just part of the rules and and modifying it before they really understand what they were doing, and that really backfired. Currently, what's being explored with version 5 of the Constitution is a modular style of implementation. We're not there yet. We still use the constitutional rule set. We haven't explored this gradual implementation yet. So if we implement a full rule set, because we want to stay pragmatic. And if you think of Holacracy, it's a 5-year-old proven practice, and you should first try to master that before you try to amend or change the rules of the game. And those of you who are developers will maybe recognize this with the same discussion: Scrum Bot versus Scrum. It's similar. People start messing around with the proven practices before they really understand why the rules are in place. So don't do that. Steps per circle that we take. Obviously, create the initial circle governance, roles, set up Holaspirit, fill in the role, the roles of the circle by the lead link. Kick off the practice with the tactical and governance elections. Then let the trained facilitator take over as soon as possible. Ideally, has been to a training before. And then provide shadowing as needed, help, offer observations, coaching, etc. as needed. Otherwise, let's just let them test the waters themselves, and we were just waiting for a signal that there's stuff is breaking down before we go there actively and check it out. Because we just can't, there's just too many circles. So we have to, we're actually researching currently an algorithm that reads the API outputs from Holaspirit and identifies circles that are performing not as well as we would wish. So we have a data science role that's looking into that. That's very exciting. So we try to find ways to figure out where our attention is needed most. Yeah, as I said before, don't forget the people, and a pattern that we recommend the organizations that we help is to create a forum to address human tensions. So the way we do this is we create a so-called OMG circle. Organisation, Mensch, Gemeinschaft. It's the German terms. We like the abbreviation OMG, and create it next to the GCC to give a space for tensions related to the individuals or the community. So the purpose of the OMG is to balance the needs of the organization, the individual, and the community, and that's where you anchor all those other roles that are not in the core value creating business for the purpose. So you kind of and you don't put that circle into the GCC, because otherwise it just may not get the attention it needs or the resources it needs. So we have this. We recommend this to do this out, the kind of the people circle. I guess most of you guys who practice Holacracy also have some kind of people circle. So that's what that is. Yeah, that's what I said. So mediating the needs of the organization, the individual and the community in service of the higher purpose of the company. And we also do teach people to use the language of spaces framework for different kinds of tensions, so that they don't attempt to resolve a relational type tension via governance, which is just weaponizing holacracy for your personal purpose. That's kind of the cancer thing that Boris mentioned. And then also make sure to create internal implementation roles accountable for the holacracy adoption process. We usually locate them in the organizational individual community circle, the OMG circle. Which brings us to accountability. So make sure to distribute the accountability for the implementation, so it's not centralized with the coaches, so to speak, but distribute that too. First of all, make sure there's a clear mandate for implementation. Everything is wrong and off if you don't have the clear mandate from the board. So who wants holacracy and why? And they need to communicate that also to the people in the organization, why they do this. And then have a ratifier sign the constitution as soon as possible. It signals to everybody that it's worth the effort of learning the practice, celebrate it, make it public, make an event around it or whatever. It's a bit like marrying, where you declare that you are bound from now on to a certain set of rules. And that's actually a happy thing. So use the momentum and to inspire people. As I said, set up an implementation role or even circle within the organization to move the ownership for the implementation really into the organization and really and not have it projected on you as a coach. And you can also link your coach role into the people circle of the organization to help the implementation role there and be available and give it a function, so it can also propose things and stuff. Optionally, you could, we have this pattern where we install a Holacracy buddy role in every circle. And Holacracy buddy is just an elected role, like the repling selected. But the Holacracy buddy is taking stock of, okay, what are the educational needs in the circle regarding Holacracy. It tries to answer the questions and escalates those questions it can't answer to the coaches, etc. So it does a lot of useful stuff for the implementation and helps people to find their way into the practice. So here's just one example from our own Holaspirit. So yeah, in addition to that, you can also install anchor level policies for the facilitator role to enforce minimum quality standards. For example, we have a policy that says they have to have HPT level training, so practitioner training is required to fill the role in the long run. So they can start with it, but if they haven't done it 3 months after, they have to leave the role. That is that. And then lastly, we do have materials, lots of materials. You should provide that. So we're using habit support programs via email with weekly learning impulses. We have our own habit support programs translated to German, and also we wrote one which is a leading habits support program, which is unique. 16 lessons. We use, of course, Holaspirit to map everything. So kudos to you guys and for all the great work you're doing to support self-organization. Without such a tool, it would just be impossible to do Holacracy. We created facilitation cards with our own language adaptations. There's whole articles on that, and we modified the test questions and added some nuance, for those of you interested, you can check out our blog. You can find an English version of this card and a German version. We have a learning database internally where we have a glossary of terms. We have learning videos on different topics, Scrum with Holacracy, project management with Holacracy, blah, blah, blah. We have a blog, we have quizzes, we have a governance app store internally, so we use those patterns like the OMG circle, store them there, and other companies can approve upon it, etc. So there's some cross-learning between those companies. We have a blog in German and also in English. We are working on a book, last but not least. So thank you for your attention, and don't forget to practice, practice, practice. Because that makes you successful, makes it stick. Okay, I stop here and wait for your questions.
Thank you very much, Dennis. So training, methodology, practice.
Practice, practice, practice. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Yeah. Okay.
So we also have Sergey here today with us. He's also a consultant, and he worked with Tochka, so you can also ask him your questions. And now we'll have about 30 minutes during which we can just openly ask all your questions. So really take the chance to ask the questions you have, and also all the doubts you're having, all the thoughts you're having about Holacracy and how you can implement and go at scale. You can just, as we are not so many, you can just unmute yourself and ask your question. So yeah, just enjoy this time to connect and discuss.
All right. I mean, just unmute yourselves and ask a question. The question you shared in the chat, maybe even.
Yeah, Akim, you had a question about lead link and the rep link trainings.
Yeah, so what we do there is we run some role play simulations with lead links in different situations for rep links. We give them, of course, a little, again, some rundown of the basics of the practice needed to understand their role, and kind of try to point out the levers they have to bring the results that the circle is, or that the rest of the organization expects of the circle, which is still their purpose as a lead link to make sure that happens. But it, of course, happens differently than from a traditional department or something in a classic organization. So how to do that, and that is focus of the lead link rep link training. So is there an opportunity to get the lead link support program? Yeah, well, it is currently, so it'll be part of the book. So you can read it there. Yeah, we see how we release those materials. The cool thing for us is that these are byproducts of our own internal learning, so we can actually share them with the wider world. So that's what we do. Bit by bit, we will release our quizzes and our articles and blogs and programs. The book is not yet out, so yeah, it's upcoming. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned it, because now we create some expectation, but maybe it's good, so we actually finish it. Yeah, so the habit programs, yeah, it's automated email. It's just basic rules. I mean, Holaspirit has a similar version now, or a short one, right? So you guys also have some kind of intro. It's a kind of a bit of an onboarding plus tips plus cool articles plus materials, etc. So for us, it's also similar. We also try to give people little, take this next action or create this checklist for yourself, or have you thought about doing this or that? So it's helps people to take first steps to develop the necessary habits, because again, it's what you do, not what you say. So if you can establish a new habit, then you can convince yourself that maybe this weird holacracy thing is actually working. So yeah. Any questions, comments?
Hi, Dennis.
Hi there.
Do you also try to find a solution for the topic of salaries in a holacratic way?
Yes, of course, we're looking into this. And if you implement Holacracy and you are not a startup, but you transition from a normal or traditional company to Holacracy, that should be the last thing you tackle, because it's the hardest, I think, and the most touchy, of course, because it's, again, it touches on privilege and status and so on. So if you want, yeah, we're certainly looking into, many of the companies are looking into ways to make it more transparent, make it more fair. There's other companies in the Netherlands who've done a great job of pioneering some cool models that we're also looking at. So many of them are tier-based models, and but if one thing, don't tie compensation to a role, because then you just get yourself into the devil's kitchen. Because then you set all the wrong incentives and so on. So success should be a team success or organizational success, and then people should benefit from that. From that. And also you have to find, obviously, a relative measure of how much value a certain skill is contributing to the organization. There's many versions of that. Holakratie 1 has their own version. I worked with Encode. They had their own earnings plan thing, with different roles, where you have an earning advisor role and a compensation architect and all those things. You can, there's this different stuff out there. If you browse a bit, you can find those things. But it's tough. I think you should be really careful and not rush things here. Any other questions? Maybe also to the others.
I think Niels, you had some questions. Perhaps you could take the mic and mute yourself. Niels Kemper.
Yeah, I'm sitting in the open office, so
Don't worry.
I think, yeah, no problem. I think I already asked my question with regard to the onboarding, also the habits program. So I got what I needed. With regard to to payments or your payment house, we're at the Consument, we're making the transitions like other companies in the Netherlands that using Holakratie to the Baarda model. I'll share the link to you in the chat. I think Holakratie doesn't say anything about culture and payment and salary, but I think KWF is a big company. We and also another company are making the switch to this model, so it's great to look into this. I'm going to share the link in the chat. I don't have any questions at this moment.
So Boris is back as well. So they're here to answer your questions. We also have Sergey. So at first you were supposed to speak after Boris, but this got a bit improvised. So you are a consultant So maybe you can also share your experience on how to scale your your thoughts on this topic.
Okay. Hello, hello everybody. Can I share my screen?
Sure.
Please, yeah, please. I need. I can't do that. One moment, please.
We need permission.
Yeah. Great. So, excuse me for my English. It's not good, but I will try to make it in the 10 points. So, I'm consultant and I'm co-founder of the Russian Society of the tool organization Business with Meaning. There are in Russia about 500 about 5 about thousands of people who very interested in tool technology. So about me, the last 5 years I studied the organization of the future tool organization, and now our company is mostly work with the project of self-management, the mostly holacracy, and we use like a soft with to self-management the Holaspirit. And in my speech today, I plan to tell you about our methodology. So how we work. In the first step, we work with the opinion, what is the management and organization. Because in the Russia, the most managers, classic manager, think that the organization is hierarchy. We make the test in the first step of work with a new organization. We ask every managers of the top managers teams to make a picture how organization is working. What is it organization? And mostly of them, about 95% of the management team draw about this picture. You know this. So, and it is for our country, it is normal. But in the most Russian company, we see the same situation, and it is very normal for us, but our mission to transform this opinion that the organization is not a system, but is an organism. So, and we work with organization like 4 contours of the organization. So what is the contour? It is blue contour. It is a contour of system.
Sergey?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. Maybe as we are quite short on time, you can focus on well, the best tips or the
best tips. So the best tips. It is work with we provide Holacracy like the systems who works with all 4 contours. Blue contours, orange contours, red, and green contours of the organization. And we discussed in the first step with the organization, it is very important in our country that the organization, it is all 4 contours, because the popular classic management systems like Lean, like Kaizen, like KPI, MBO, like OKR. It is mostly orange systems or blue systems and etc. And we describe the top management teams that the organization, it is all 4 contours. Blue contours, you know that, red contours, orange contours, strategic management, and it is very important, meaning management. This is very important, but we in Russia don't, the most managers in Russia don't think about green contours, about ideology, about meaning. And it is very important to tell about this. And we use, it is our best practice, spiral dynamic. And in the first step, we work with meaning, with mindset of manager. We provide 3-day training about spiral dynamic. We discussed and describe top management teams. Why is self-management is the next level of the classic management, regular management. First, the transformation of corporative culture, and then transformation of operation systems. And Holacracy is the operation system. But without transformation of mindset, we can't make transformation operation systems, and we work with them using spiral dynamic. We in the first we think that we are in the first we are consultants of corporative culture. In the second, we are facilitators, and in the third, we are self-management consultants. And we work with the mindset, and we think that it is very important. So we make that pictures. You can see that for every level of management, we use
Sergey,
pictures.
I'm sorry to interrupt you again. I think we already here have practitioners that know about the basis. So really the idea is, as a consultant, what are the key patterns that are common to your clients that will help them scale. So what are the best practice to be able to scale the practice, to onboard the users, because I think those are questions that most of people face when trying to deploy self-management practices. So if you had some slides about this, perhaps we can jump to that.
So in this slide, the material about how we implement self-management, and this is three steps. And first step, we work with mindset with the facilitation session. We are facilitators, but we use the both type of facilitators. We think that the Holacracy facilitation, it is hard facilitator. But the classic facilitator, it is soft facilitation. And in the first step, we used soft facilitation to involve the most part of management team in that project. And we think that it's very important. And after we work like Dennis, who tell about his experience 20 minutes ago, and we used training of self-management for 3 days for top management, and after deploying the self-management training of facilitators, detailed circuit roles level, setup of continuous, and formation of the internal policy. Our best practice, our best practice is that we don't use only constitution of Holacracy but we make for every company of our clients, we make integral policy, Holakratie. We call it Holakratie. So if the company name Tochka criteria and another, it is one integral policy who united all management systems in the one place. And we make in our project we make one integral policy, Holakratie, who described all 4 contours of organization: red, blue, orange, and green. Not only Holakratie constitution, but the whole constitution. And we think that it is very important to discuss in top management teams this integral policy, one integral policy about whole organization. It is our best practice that I plan to tell you. So with us, with me today, Natalia, and maybe Natalia can tell something that I don't tell. Natasha.
Perhaps how you worked with Tochka, and also Boris is back, so maybe, yeah.
I think we have no time for Natalia, but the main principle, I think that you said very right. So the first of all, we work with corporate culture and start with the top of the team, with a team of tops. And then we took some of the circles, some of them, and say to them that that is the safe method to fit, to make some kind of fitting or trying the holacracy or your kind of management type for your organization. But before that, we show how it can be, what is the best practices in the world at all. And then the team choose itself which way they are going to do it. And we help them to make the circles and to describe the roles, go to the Holaspirit and to see the organization as a living organism. In transparency, then the second important step is the training of facilitators. And we think and we see that if we do not pay attention to the training of facilitators, no Holakratie practices are going to the circle and live there, and the circle cannot practice tactical engagement meeting. That is why we pay a lot of attention to facilitator trainings. And then we have a club for facilitators where we talk about the best practices and some fuck-ups and so on, and use the experience of these people, these facilitators of the circles, to make their own best practices and to give that to all of the organization. And of course, the second step is all the projects that the team is going to implement to go from the direct management to the Holakratie practices. So they dream about the situation they are going to do, they're going to live, and we're helping them to set all the projects and to go step by step all along these projects. Thank you. And what about the questions for Sergey? And maybe there was one more question for Boris. He didn't answer it.
Thank you, Natalia. Yes, I think Akim was wondering what are the challenges you are facing now that you are at scale? Boris or Dennis, perhaps?
Yeah. Well, now, yeah, we're also now at a stage where we no longer, in some companies, no longer talk about implementation, but just like, okay, we've set it up. So now, how can we deepen the practice? So one thing we're doing is setting up learning groups for different roles. So we have a facilitator learning group, a general role filler learning group, and a secretary learning group, as well as a leading learning group. And these learning groups are simply, we use a pattern that a coach colleague from Telos Consulting proposed, which is just to take the tactical meeting format, bring those role fillers that together and have them discuss certain tensions they experience during practice, and just do a tactical style check-in, and people reinforces the of course the tactical style format, but also gives people the way to a format for discussing relevant things. And you can also use checklists and metrics to elicit some more tensions, and use lead link specific checklists and secretary specific checklists to also reinforce thinking about these good behaviors. So this is something we're trying, and we're also drilling more into the the applications built on top of Holacracy, which is, as I mentioned, how do you marry the Scrum process with Holacracy, so we have some kind of Scrum app. Then we also did something on project management. We're looking to different apps in this way, and of course the compensation is always a topic that's to be worked at. So we're transitioning into becoming a mature Holacracy organization, and then also trying to maximize the potential of this operating system. It's like, okay, you have this new operating systems, but you haven't installed all the new cool programs that you could run. So now it's time to also unpack those and make it available for people, and help them figure out what else is possible, and so that's the kind of the challenge I see. Also, of course, backsliding. There's always some power games still going on. We have to help lead links very much still to find their way into the role, because we see there's sometimes there's just too little engagement in that role. So I'm not sure exactly what it is. Maybe it's the hesitance to lead, but actually it's not a decrease in power in Holacracy, but it's actually there's more power in the system, the overall system. So everybody's more invited to lead. So you have to also help lead links to understand the levers that they actually have at their disposal to also call out underperformance for the sake of the organization, and get rid of people from roles, and all those uncomfortable decisions like resource decisions and strategy decisions, and actually just also push for that. So that's something, an area I think where we can get better, and where there's lots of room for improvement. So these are some of the challenges I see at the moment.
Millie, if you want, I can share Tochka challenges.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, Boris, you're here.
Or Boris, Ken as well. I think that the question was addressed to him directly, but perhaps you can complete your...
Oh, I think that Derek can go ahead.
Okay. Well, so close to Dennis' thoughts as I see now in Tochka. For example, framework leaves maybe to 80 or 90% or something like this. And philosophy I think maybe 60 or something like that. I'm not totally sure. But the very first challenge is that we really want the cultural use in all company. You know, there is some another culture in our sales team. They have a little bit another spirit or something like this. They are pretty cool in their job. Well, but still they need to be connected with another part of the company, and we are trying to have the same spirit, the same culture or something like this. So this is a really big challenge for us, because it's almost a third part of company. So the second one, I guess, is about rep links, because they are working enough, but not enough for us, because we want, you know, to be really, we want to have a really Ferrari community, as you remember Brian's words, like be Ferrari. Yeah, do you remember? Yeah. Well, we want the same, because rep links are working now, but not as cool as we want. And this is the second challenge. And the third challenge is about efficiency, because we work, we live in Agile, we work with Scrum, with Holacracy, we have a OKR system, and we really want to combine them with great efficiency. And I think because sometimes the meetings are duplicating, and it's not really comfortable. It costs a lot of money for for a company and so on. Well, now this is a little bit a step back, I guess, but it's our experience, so we are pretty sure we will have something new. Well, so I guess there are our challenges, but I'm not sure. Maybe Boris will add something.
I see another question here directed to me, asking how much time took your implementation phase. I would say for the most progressed organization, 2 to 3 years. This is my estimate. Where it feels like really stable and self-sustaining, and very little intervention needed, so to speak. So yeah, but it can vary, of course, depending on a lot of factors.
Could be interesting, Dominique, that you present yourself and tell a bit about what you're doing, and perhaps ask also the question to Boris, if you want.
Sure. Yeah, I'm you in your community. Yeah? I'm working for Roche. It's a huge pharmaceutical company with headquarters in Basel. We have about 100,000 people around about the world. I'm working here on site in Basel in the area of site services, and we decided 1 year ago to go towards new ways of working. And our site heads, or the leadership team, have chosen, from my point of view, a quite weird approach, because they tried to go bottom up. And they said, okay, every department, we are talking about 1,700 people, have their own needs and maturity states. And now, 1 year afterwards, we have developed in the same direction. We have worked a lot on culture and on mindset, but we have not yet implemented one org model or framework or whatever. In the 4 areas, we have different understandings about role-based working. We have not yet a common governance, understanding of the governance processes. And I think we are at a very crucial point now, because from my point of view, we need to go into one framework. And this is where we are currently. We have implemented and starting using Holaspirit without having implemented Holacracy. Also, this seems a kind of weird. But what I've seen is that the visualization helps already to shape the understanding. So I'm an engineer by profession. I'm always thinking, okay, first you have to design the process, and then you select the tool. But in this case, it was really interesting. It helps to shape the understanding. It will not solve our problems. And yeah, that's where we are currently. And the next weeks will be, during the next weeks, I guess we will decide where to go. And I hope that the decision will taken that we will go under one framework. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure the transformation will fail.
How can you say again how many people are involved in this transformation?
1,700 for the moment, and we started using Holaspirit with 150. First, we start with the visualization and so on, and also introducing and or presenting all the roles. We have start working on roles, defining also purpose, domain, accountabilities. So in a way, we started using bits and pieces of Holacracy, but we have not yet implemented.
One advice: maybe don't design domains yet. wait with it, because it's most misunderstood concept in the beginning. Just leave the thing empty for now, and until you learn to Holacracy, then put in, because it's people mistake it for scope or something, but it's just a fence around a certain thing, and you don't have much fences to stand around. So
with regard to domains, right?
Yeah, and if you can, you better use a policy. Avoid.
Yeah, we have the same practice here. Usually we don't say design the domains, only act domains if you have attention about someone's not respecting your circle responsibility. And I usually try to coach teams, like setting up too much domains can also be seen as a kind of a weakness, because I don't trust the other companies to respect my own circle responsibilities. So I'll set up a couple of domains to fence my own circle. But just only set up domains when the tension arises. So our IT department has a domain about buying license fees for software packages, because they noticed people were doing this by themselves. They wanted to have a domain on it. Just let it grow organically. That's the way we do it also. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is now, bottom up, the organization starts to move closer together. But I guess on the leadership team level, they're still struggling. And this is for me very, really critical, because situations that you've described, Dennis, this is key for everything, that there's 1,000% commitment from the top.
Without it, don't you bother, really. Just wasting your time. I mean, maybe the bill helps people a little to warm up to the idea or something, and that would be the best case scenario, that all your efforts. But in the end, if they are not fully on board, they can always say, okay, it was nice and good what you've done, but now we do it the old way, because we have the power to just abolish that, and that's the bitter truth.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, I think we will close up the session. If you want to have a conclusion word, Dennis and Boris, perhaps. There were a lot of takeaways to wrap up, I think.
Yeah, thank you again for inviting us to this really interesting exchange, and I'm really sorry to have to leave now because it's just kind of starting to get really interesting. You should extend it for another hour. That's my sense, but I respect people's time. So thank you all. Thank you, Boris and CJ and so on. So
thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Denise. It was cool.
Ja, dat vind ik ook. Dat is een beetje de rol. Ja, precies.
Boris, would you like to have a
last word?
Yeah, a last word.
Yeah, well, I just want to encourage everybody who's exploring, you know, it's like exploring how to ride a bike or how to swim. It just comes with practice. You can never read enough books on how to swim or how to ride a bike. You just kind of have to plunge yourself in. Secondly, I truly believe that copying something is a way to failure. As long as there is a strong personal why, and as long as there is a strong organizational why, you need this instrument and the values that are built into it, then there is absolutely no way but to succeed. Because as one of the principles or the values, is it safe enough to try? And it looks like it is. So I think that's it. I got to run as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for today, for sharing your experience. Well, I think the slot in the morning is not the best one to gather everyone, but it was great to have you, and we will write an article about our session today, and I will share that with you later on, as well as the recording. Many thanks. Well, I keep in mind that it's about implementing the spirits, and that the training is, and the practice is central in transformation. So thank you for this session today, and looking forward to
thanks
to have a new session with you. Thank you very much, you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Boris, Dennis.
Thanks.
Talia.
Thanks.
Bye.
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 Bye, Dominique.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Philippe.
Bye, Dominique.
Bye, Elena.
Ciao.